Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Welcome to Coffee Time Career Chat. My name is Patricia Hayes, and I'm excited to be here with you live. It's been a minute, yes? For those of you who are joining for the very first time, again, my name is Patricia Hayes. I'm an executive advisor, empowerment coach, and authentic networking strategist. I love all things strategy, strategic planning, executive advising, helping people to develop those relationships internally and externally that are authentic and sustainable for their long-term career, and helping you really to set the path that you really want to achieve professionally and personally, and making sure that you get there on your own terms. Yes. All right. It has been fantastic being able to catch up with you all, and we are continuing on this new fall series, new fall 2024, Thriving Through Transitions in Life and Career. And we've had a few hiccups along the way, but we're getting back on track. And I'm looking forward to providing this content for you, and look forward to getting your input as well, because it's so important to make sure that as you are in your transition season, that you're not just surviving during that time period, but that you are actually thriving during it. And it's a challenge, right? It is a challenge. So this series is all about acknowledging all of the realness, all the real things that are happening in the midst of a professional, personal transition, how it impacts you, and the solutions along the way to help you as you go. So look forward to getting your input. Let me hear from you along the way. And if you thought I missed something, let me know, because I'd love to be able to incorporate some real time situations. So today's topic is when life and work collide. And I've titled it Why Balance is Not Real, because literally this is so common for most people at some point in time, are going to get to a point where just things just seem to explode personally, professionally. Everything just kind of just literally comes together, collides, and you're like, what in the world is really going on here? And most of the time it catches us off guard, right? Which is unfortunate, because if we learn along the way, we can learn to at least not necessarily expect the whatever the challenge is, but know how to respond in when unexpected things hit, right? So that's a process and a journey as well. But when things hit double duty, work just is just going crazy, life is just seeming like it's just streamers going everywhere, but it's not a party. um, the first thing people will tell you is that, well, you got to learn how to balance your life. And you're going to learn here today why I think balance is a fraud. That is not what I teach or exude, but I used to think it, right? Because that's conventional wisdom. Learn how to balance your life. And we're going to talk about why that's not exactly accurate, especially when you're dealing with so many things coming at you at one time. You're trying to achieve at higher levels professionally, and oh yeah, live a life at the same time. So here's the thing: transitions are tough enough without these artificial standards that people put in place for us, and the measures of success that they lay out as well along the way, right? It's tough enough. We don't need to do that. The common scenario is, like I said, life and work hit at the same time, and we're really trying to figure out what is that all about. Hey, Danielle. Yes, streamers going everywhere, but it's not a party. I'm going to have to remember that, right? That just came to me. That was not scripted, but that's literally what it seems like. But here you are. You've got all of these things going on. And the first challenge that comes up really and truly is how to choose what to do next. And for most of us, especially women, people like to put us in little boxes and say, oh, okay, well, just deal with work. And then, or you can just, compartmentalize that word and deal with life over there, your personal life, your family life, your community, right? If you're involved in all of those things, which I've always been, right? I've always been heavily involved in my community, my church, dedicated to family, plus, trying to, quote, achieve at high levels professionally. And conventional wisdom says you're supposed to balance all of that. I just named what, 4 or 5 categories of life at the same time, but you're supposed to balance that and make it work even when things just seem to be, crumbling, exploding, whichever word is your choice, all around you. And here's the thing, that challenge is so unfair. It is so unfair. So you want me to choose my work over my family, or you want me to choose my family over my work at the expense of my work? I mean, like, which thing is it? And for women in particular, there are a lot of choices. Unfortunately, even in today's modern world, we are still carrying the brunt of running a household, of taking care of all of the things. And this is no knock on those men who have stepped up and learned how to, like, hey, yeah, we got to carry our weight around the house as well. But unfortunately, we're still carrying the brunt of it, right? So what are you supposed to do? That's that first challenge. The second challenge I've already hinted at, which is this fake call to balance. And I'm just going to call it that. I believed and followed that for so long until I realized that that's just a bunch of malarkey. There's no such thing as balance. Now, there are books written about it. There are articles. There are things by people that I love and respect, right, from their perspective. And I get it. The idea of, hey, in a perfect world, things should be equal, right? Let's go ahead and pull out these definitions. I was going to save them for later, but let's go ahead and pull them out. So the definition of balance is even distribution of weight, or like when different elements are equal or in correct proportions. That correct proportions piece just really I laughed when I read it, because I'm like, and who's defining what the correct proportions are in your life, right? Is it going to be conventional wisdom and the folks out there in their imaginary little world versus what you are actually experiencing from day to day? Okay. And I've not been a fan of that term when it comes to how you work and how you live. I understand the concept, but especially in today's world, it's just not accurate. It's not a full enough situation. It's not a full enough term to use, right? Balance. Because yes, can you achieve balance at some point in time? Yes. I will say that balance can be achieved. There is at some point in time where things seem to be, you've got the going on and everything seems to be just right. And then something happens. This is not a long-term solution. Balance is not a long-term solution. I'm just going to say that. Okay. Especially when you're going through all of these life changes, both expected and unexpected. Okay. I mean, let's talk about the unexpected. Literally, right here in my own household, 2 weeks ago now, we had the most unexpected. I've been saying it was not on my bingo card, where we had a family medical emergency, and there was emergency surgery had by a member of my family 2 weeks ago. And then a lovely little extended stay in the hospital because of post-op complications. How are you supposed to balance that while trying to keep things going at the house while trying to keep things going with your business and meeting client needs, right? There's no balance to that. So while I'm saying that, what is the thing? Well, my contribution to this conversation is integration. That's the term that I have been utilizing for some time now, and integration has such a, oh my gosh, I love the term, I love the definition, and it just makes more sense in our everyday lives. So, what is integration? Integration, the root word integrate, and it means to combine, make one thing with another so that they can become a whole. I get chills thinking about that. Think about that. Bringing things together to make a whole. Second definition is to bring together or incorporate parts into a whole, to make up, combine, or complete to produce a whole or larger unit. Do you see a common theme there? Bringing things together to make a whole. That does not mean that things are equal, which is what balance not just implies, but literally the definition is even distribution, equal weight. Whereas integration, just like parts of a car, some things are larger, some things are smaller. And as we live our lives day to day, running businesses, working, challenging positions and jobs, running a household, raising kids, being active in our community, those things are not balanced. They are much like more likely to be integrated, with some things having a larger, playing a larger piece during life moments, while others are a little bit smaller, and then flip-flopping and shifting, right? And that's okay, because what is it? It's bringing things together to be the whole. And what is the whole we're talking about? The whole that we're talking about is your life, right? When you want to thrive and have a life and career that is meaningful and purposeful to you, you want to consider it as a whole piece, not some little bitty pieces here and there that don't mean anything and don't come together. All right. So this requires that integration. It requires that work, right? To be conscientious of what's going on, to not fall off the track and trying to, quote, do this fake balance thing. Because guess what? That's stressful. Been there, done that. It is so stressful trying to, quote, give things equal play, right? It doesn't work. It doesn't work for long. Let me say that. Doesn't work for long. So, what does it mean to be more integrated? First of all, it means that you have to acknowledge that everything does not get equal weight all the time at the same time. Basic premise seems obvious, right? And secondly, that is okay. So, for example, the more recent example, once I realized that we had this emergency, that there was going to be emergency surgery, literally, it was like everything, nothing else mattered. I went to deal with my family member. It's like, okay, let's see what this is going to look like. Called a few key friends to say, hey, I need help with this. And then let's figure out what that is. And then once we did that, and then trying to protect the interest of my family, making sure that my son, who was hundreds of miles away in college, didn't find out by accident, while he's traveling paintball. I mean, all of these pieces were coming, that needed to be put together and prioritized. And for me, that was prioritizing my family and their needs in that moment. And then as we got a little bit further out and I realized, oh, this is going to take a little bit longer than we thought. Oh my gosh, y'all. Then it's like, okay, what do I need to do now? Which is now I'm going to take a look at what are my next highest priorities. And professionally, that's making sure that the needs of my clients were going to be met over the course of the next week because I had no idea how long this was going to play out. Right. So, what were the priorities that needed to be met there? And that was it. Anything else got canceled. I literally took any and everything else out off of my calendar. Community service related things, leadership related things that were not related to my existing clients, all of that went away. Just immediately gave notice. I'm not available. We have an emergency. I will let you all know when I can pop back in. Right. And it was not because those other things weren't important. They just weren't as important as this right now. And then even with that of saying, okay, now there's no need for me stressing. I still have to be available and to provide the best of who I am and what I am at this moment to my clients. So where do I need to see if there's some give there? Right? And as the week progressed, it's like, okay, I'm able to make sure that I honor those those conversations with those clients works, not a problem. They never knew what was going on. Right. Another client, because it was a longer term strategic planning one, and there was some work that we were building up to for the following week for a whole retreat that I was scheduled to facilitate. It was like, okay, I'm going to need to push this next conversation off to the following week and hope, which it did, that we would be settled and released from the hospital by that point in time. And that's how it worked. But again, those long-term relationships, y'all know how I feel about those, came into play for the good because my client was like, oh my gosh, that's no problem whatsoever. We can have this conversation on Monday. Let me know what time. We'll be doing that. And then we'll prep these things for the end of the week. And so while we just kept moving on and prioritizing family and prioritizing those client needs, I was able to do it. And I will say, being able to do it in a way that was minimizing stress, that was minimizing a negative impact on any of those pieces while still meeting the purpose and overall goals that needed to be met. And that was to make sure that my family needs were met, to make sure that my existing client needs were for those couple of weeks were prioritized, and everything else let go. That's what integration looks like. Making sure that your life is complete. All the parts are still there. Some of the parts had to get a little smaller for a little bit, while the others, really kind of came into play much bigger. And I ended up having one of the best strategic planning facilitations to date. I love doing that work, and it worked out perfectly. And I don't use that word a lot, but it worked out great, right? But there was a time when it would not have, because I would have been able to do it. I mean, I'm that person. I'm going to do it. But I would have been stressed. I would have been trying to be like, oh my gosh, because I would have been trying to meet everybody's needs at the exact same level, which would have then caused great stress to me physically, mentally, in an unnecessary way, because I would have been too focused on trying to balance everything. And I'm telling you, once I let go of that concept and worked on integration at any given time, it has been a game changer. So I'm going to invite you to consider that. I invite you to replace balance with integration and see what that looks like. Where are those pieces of your life? What are those large chunks that right now are playing the biggest part of who you are and what you're doing? And then I want you to kind of give some percentages to it, right? Right now, not the dream of where you want things to be, right? But right now, today, like, be honest. If it looks like a seesaw, it's okay. because a lot of times that's exactly what's going on. But remember, even with a seesaw or like, I'm a lawyer, so the scales of justice, it only takes a little bit for that scale to get tipped to one side or the other, right? Again, that idea that balance is not the end all be all. Integration is what can you do so that are able to be flexible and adaptable through life's challenges, through professional challenges, and so that you can get back to the whatever the equilibrium that works best for you. Because that's the other piece. Let's not forget, this is about what works best for you, not other people. Okay. At the peak of a part of my career, I was literally, my kids were little. They were little and I was working crazy hours. I birthed them both while I was still lobbying, here in Texas at the Capitol. I was like, my life was pretty nutsy. Okay. But I also knew what was important for me and how I managed it. So maybe I pulled in some extra help. I definitely did, to make sure that balls didn't get dropped. Or maybe I made sure that, I was always there as best I could for dance recitals and, football games and all of that when they were tiny. Guess what? When they're little, that adaptability really comes into play. It actually gets a little more difficult when they get older, to be quite honest, right? Because it's larger groups, larger things, all of that. And you still have the ability to adapt, be flexible, make shifts as needed. So many examples of this throughout my life and career. And I want you to take that time to figure out what that looks like for you over the course of the last, I'm going to move past 3 years because that still includes the pandemic. And man, that threw everything off for everybody. But go back about 5 years, go back a little bit and see what that looked like. Think about those moments where you just felt so out of whack and where you maybe were trying to strive for balance when you really should have been striving for integration, and figuring out, okay, this was taking priority and then this, and then what can I do in order to acknowledge that? Where could I have been more flexible? Where could I have been more adaptable? Where could I have made sure that I had more compassion for myself in this process? And then go with that. Okay. Because remember, in the course of whatever transition you're going through, the goal is to thrive during it, not to just survive. All right. That's what I have for you today. That's it. I would love to hear your input, get some more thoughts on that. There might need to be a follow-up on that. I'm going to have to re-listen to this one myself. But anyway, if you are looking to have some deeper conversations about your professional transitions and what you can do to strengthen the process for you, and are you absolutely ready to dig in at a much deeper and committed level, then hit me up, give me a DM, send me a DM or an email to see, if we're a good fit. And if not, I will send you to someone else, but to make sure that you really get the help that you need during this transition, because it is so crucial to do transitions with support. So crucial. All right. Take care, everyone. I look forward to chatting with you again next week. Bye-bye.